Testing. Thank you. Let's go ahead and call the September 17th meeting of the Historical Preservation Board to order. The first thing we're going to do is a roll call. Denise?
Right. Board Member Fisher?
Here.
Board Member Field?
Here.
Vice Chair Price?
Here.
Chair Grove?
Here.
Board Member Spratlin?
Here.
Board Member Hill? I do know that Board Member Kastner said he was coming tonight, and I have not heard from Board Member Gabriel. Would you like to wait a moment, or would you like to
have Andy move up?
Okay, maybe into Gabriel's spot?
Yeah, because she's not here.
Okay.
It is 5 minutes late, so thank you, Andy. Are there any changes to the agenda? We don't need a motion, but is there anything that we want to change tonight? We need a motion to approve the minutes from the June 18th meeting. Will somebody put a motion and somebody second it?
I move to approve, based on the recording secretary's certification, the June 18th, 2018 action minutes for the June 18th, 2018 regular meeting of the Littleton Historical Preservation Board.
I second.
We'll go ahead and vote. So if you agree with the approval, go ahead and vote yes, and then we'll... Motion carries.
Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Thank you. Now, next thing on the agenda is we'll open it up for public comment. Do we have anybody that signed up? Thank you. Pam Chadbourne.
Good evening, Historic Preservation Board. My name is Pam Chadbourne. I live a block and a half from here. So I'd like to talk about your study session item for your work plan, and specifically, I want to talk about the Littleton Boulevard historic area, potentially. I noticed, first off, that item number 3, which is HPB's actions, needs to coordinate with number 23 for staff, and number 6 for your work with HLI. All 3 of those pertain to the Littleton Boulevard survey, and there needs to be a work plan that integrates all of them. It's supposed to be a management function. It should show the integrated actions that all 3 entities need to take that flow into each other, that develop an actionable plan of action with an outcome at the end. I'm very alarmed that this has not moved forward. And I noticed that number 4, medium, the downtown design standards and guidelines, was rushed through, in my opinion, for no good merit. Yet this item that could have huge impact and value to the city, the Littleton Boulevard Historic Survey, has not gone anywhere. Haven't heard a word about it. So Historic Preservation Board, move this up and get a plan of action. Have our staff make an integrated management plan and figure out what we need to do to get that moving forward. Now, I also want to say the staff involvement needs to include Economic Development and Planning Commission. And maybe that's one of the issues here. Maybe Planning Commission needs to be part of the plan to move this forward. What are all our alternatives for this district? It may not be able to be a historic district, that's what we've heard. So what are other alternatives? There are business districts. Can there be a business historic district combination? Let's get staff bringing you and me and the public these data points which you need to know to make this decision. So does Planning Commission, so does City Council. So we need this data. Let's get an integrated plan to get the data that we need. This is going to take work. We need to know the economic merits of this and/or risks, but I think they're probably all to the advantage of the city. Let's get that going. So I'm going to mention two things that should be in our plan. And one is I want to propose to you that we have phone booths put back up and down Littleton Boulevard to Main Street. In downtown, maybe they're an older version, and on Littleton Boulevard, they'd be the 50s version of phone booths. If you don't believe this would be popular, I think you're nuts. People would go in them and take selfies inside of the phone booth with their phones. And it would be in character. Also, we need to fix the lighting on this whole area. It's bad lighting, it doesn't fit, it's not historic, and we need to get that happening. So, thanks for your consideration. Since I'm over time, thanks.
Thank you, Pam. Do you have anybody else that wants to speak? Okay. All right, thank you. Now we'll move to the public hearing. Just a quick review on how that works. I'll go ahead and announce the information about what's going on. And the first thing we will do is have staff present, and then we'll have the applicant or the representative come and present. And at that time, the board can ask questions of either the applicant or staff. After that, we'll declare the public meeting open, and the public can sign up to make comments. Again, the same thing will apply for any public comments. They have 3 minutes, state name, address, or location where they live, make their comments, and adhere to the 3-minute rule. And then if there's anything that the applicant or the representative would like to comment on after they've heard from the public, they can then do so. Then we'll close the public hearing, and we will have a discussion. The first thing we do is we go to a motion. We discuss then that motion, and we have to vote on that motion before we move forward, whether it reflects what we want after our discussion or not. And then once we vote on that motion, if we have a new motion, we can do that. If not, the original motion holds true. Okay? So let's go ahead and hear the discussion from staff on a resolution of the Historical Preservation Board concerning a certificate of historic appropriateness for a rooftop awning for the Blue Ribbon and Broussard building located at 2670-80 West Main Street. Andrea.
Thank you. I'm Andrea Memnaugh, the planning staff. And as the chair just mentioned, this is a certificate of appropriateness application for a rooftop. It's for me. What?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to mention that the projector isn't working for those out in our audience. Those on watching from home will still be able to see everything that is on the screen. Our board members can see everything on the screen, but those in the audience have printouts that they can follow along with.
Thank you, Denise. So the certificate of appropriateness application is for an awning for the Blue Ribbon and Broussard buildings, which is located at 2670 and 2680 West Main Street. The awning would be on the rooftop seating area at the second level of the building. And the process for tonight is a certificate of appropriateness, and that is actually the only planning process that is required for this application. And following this application, should it be approved, it can move on to obtaining a building permit. So what you can see here on your screen, for those of you that can see the screen, is that the view house is located on the westernmost block of Main Street. It's on the south side of the street, and it consists of 2 buildings, the Blue Ribbon and the Broussard buildings. In this slide, you can see its location within the Main Street Historic District. And there is a view of the view house from the street. And you can see the arrows here of where the awning is proposed. And here's a little bit of background. There are two historical photographs here. The one on the left is the Blue Ribbon. The one on the right is the Boussard Building. They were built in different years, 1907 and 1921, and they were auto-related businesses that have been in these buildings for probably their entire existence until View House opened up. And at some point, the buildings were consolidated, and there was a connection made between the two buildings, which essentially turned it into one property and one building. The building was included in the Main Street Historic District in 2011, and the Boussard Building on the right is a contributing building. So here we move to the applicant proposal, and you can see on the slide here what that awning would look like. It would be a permanent awning and provide cover for the seating area. It's made of PVC retractable material on I have here wooden frame, but it's actually a metal frame as shown in the staff report. It would be clear retractable material on the metal frame. The applicant does have samples that they can show you if you desire. And it would be 1,510 square feet in size. And as you can see here, the front facade is there on the left kind of side of that picture, and that's the front facade, and so that the awning is actually set back from the front facade. Here's another view of that where you can see the existing railing around this outdoor seating area and how that awning would work. There is criteria for approval of certificate of appropriateness that needs to be addressed, and I haven't included every criterion that is within the code. I've picked out the ones that are most pertinent. The entire analysis is provided in your staff report. And the first one I've included is that the proposed work would not detrimentally alter, destroy, or adversely affect any architectural or landscape feature which contributes to its original historic designation. And the analysis is that the awning will not impact the historic portion of the building, which is the first story. The awning will be attached to the recent addition only. All right, and then we move to the design guidelines. And as you know, we have two sets of design guidelines for Main Street. We have the historic preservation design guidelines for contributing buildings. And then we also have the newly approved design standards for the other buildings in the district and for downtown. And it is the preservation design guidelines that apply here, and there are specifically awning guidelines that are included in that document. And the first is 3.11, to use an operable awning where appropriate. And the applicant has provided a retractable awning, and so it can give sun and shade and cover as needed. The second criterion or standard is 3.12, the awning to be in character with the building. The metal frame of the awning is consistent with the metal elements and the second story addition. There is a setback from the front facade of 15.9 feet, and it will therefore have a minimal impact, visual impact from the street. And then finally, criterion or standard 3.13, design an awning to be in proportion with the building. And the staff analysis is that the awning will cover a substantial portion of the rooftop seating area, but from a visual standpoint, it should have a minimal impact on the view of the historic facade. And so that concludes the analysis section of the criteria, and wanted to include what we did for public notice. The public notice of this public hearing was sent to all property owners that are adjacent to the subject property, and that includes across rights-of-ways and alleys. And the property was also posted. There was a sign within the storefront window of the View House restaurant. So with that, here is the staff recommendation. It is that staff finds that the application meets the criteria for approval and is therefore recommending approval of HPB Resolution 05-2018, and a copy of that resolution is included in your packet. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. The applicant also has a presentation and is prepared to speak and answer your questions as well.
Andrea, you have a picture of the proposed awning from probably the second story of a building across the street. Is there an artist rendition of this from the typical view from across the street at 5 feet 6 inches, you know, as you'd be looking at it from across the street on the sidewalk?
We don't have available that that viewpoint for this.
I just want to make sure I'm clear, because one building's in the district and one building is not.
So both buildings are in the district, and they're technically one, but traditionally the Boussard building was a contributing building, and the Blue Ribbon Stables on the left was a non-contributor.
So that's why we have to use the historical design guidelines and the downtown standards, right?
We've used the Historic Preservation Design Guidelines because the awning is on the Boussard building itself, which is a contributing building.
So we just use the design guidelines.
Yes. Now, as you may recall, there are some topics that are not addressed in the design standards, and in that case, we would go back to the downtown design standards for that. But this application did not have any proposed modifications that are addressed in the downtown design standards. Typically, we rely on that for things such as landscaping, site improvements, rooftop equipment.
So we should really go off of the historical guidelines.
The historic preservation design guidelines are the applicable.
Not the standards in terms of making our decision.
That's right.
Okay. That's what I thought. Any other questions?
Yeah, Andrew, you mentioned it meets the front setback. Are there any side setback requirements?
So this property is in the CA zone district, and there are no setbacks in the CA zone district. And so as you see, the awning does go to the end of the building, of that existing building, and so it does meet that zoning requirement.
Okay. The other thing I couldn't quite tell from the drawings, is there a gutter on the awning?
The applicant can speak to that. I believe there is.
Okay. All I have.
Andrea, did you say that it's a PVC retractable material on a metal frame as opposed to wooden frame?
Yes,
Okay.
that's right. It's a metal frame.
All right.
It was a
Thanks.
error on my part.
But it's permanent.
It is permanent, intended to be permanent.
Andrew, could you speak to what components are the retractable aspect of this awning?
Yes, so all aspects will be retractable except for the frame. And so the awning will have clear plastic sides that can come up and down. It's a motorized mechanism that can bring it up and down, as well as the top of the roof, and so that it can be adjusted according to the weather.
So the metal frame is permanent, but the PVC is what retracts?
That's right.
And you have clear plastic on the sides. What about the roof? And the clear plastic descends on all three sides, is that correct?
Yes, and the roof.
And the roof is clear plastic as well?
That's right.
Okay. And then a question, are there any other alternative materials that are possible to use under this approval? Or is this that we see and are discussing right now, is that what is in fact going to be built?
This is what has been proposed, and if the board should approve this certificate of appropriateness, it would need to be built in this way. If the applicant wanted to change the materials, that would be an amendment that would come back to the board for review and approval.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you, Andrea.
Okay?
Now we can hear from the applicant or their representative.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Brad Mansky with View House. I'm the Vice President of View House.
Hi, I'm Rachel Johnson. I'm Vice President of Development for View House.
Would you like to start by seeing the material?
Sure. See me, sure.
They will do that to match the exact color of the building.
Oh, here's your gutter. Is this the frame?
Yes. And then this would be...
And then what's
Roof
this?
and sides?
Rachel,
Okay.
would you mind just repeating that in the microphone when you're done so that everybody else can get it in the record? Okay, thanks.
And then what's this?
That's the same color of...
Would you like,
Okay, so what I was saying is the manufacturer will match the exact color of the frame, the metallic frame, and then the siding is a pretty thick PVC, which we can get into more detail, will allow the sunlight in and keep the views, but will allow us to use the space throughout the winter.
so it's primarily for winter use?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, kind of creating a greenhouse effect up there, okay?
Year round.
Wow. Substantial. Everybody see that? Everybody see that?
Did you guys see this? Okay. Denise, do they need to repeat anything about the materials?
Did you need me to repeat anything about materials? I don't think so.
Okay.
Just go ahead.
Okay, so basically what we want to accomplish is the View House was built on 5 main pillars, those being fun energy, view, superior, locally rooted, and inclusive, and that's something that we breathe into everything that we do. I'm really going to hone into the view aspect of what we're trying to accomplish here. These 2 pictures kind of demonstrate the kind of views that you can appreciate from our rooftop, but as you'll see, there's no one sitting outside. It's chilly in the winter, and I think because of the location of the building, that wind current really deflects people from wanting to sit outside. So what we are hoping to achieve, and Andrea really covered all of our bases, is to make it something that guests can enjoy year-round. In the past, we've put up a tent over our green area in the winters that guests have really enjoyed because we'll do so many events such as dueling pianos or yoga that really extend throughout the whole year for our guests, not just in the summer. So it's something that we've done in our downtown location that guests really, really appreciate, being able to sit outside and enjoy the views and the whole experience and still be warm. As Andrea said, it's not a wood frame, it's a metal frame that you guys have in front of you. We tried really hard with this manufacturer to get it as close to the actual original building as possible, and they've been really easy to work with sending us the same exact materials that the siding was already built with. And I think this is a part of your packet as well that shows the whole outdoor patio space that's being covered. Here are a couple of pictures, let me know if I'm going too fast, from the manufacturer that show kind of what the finished product would look like. Ours wouldn't be like that in the fact that we would have the clear sidings and the clear roof, but this is basically the finished product. What's kind of cool is the front side rolls down and up, so depending on where the sun is, we can kind of create it however we want.
Excuse me, when you refer to the front side, is that the side facing the mountains?
Yes.
Or the front of the building? Okay, thank you.
Correct. And I think I think it was Price, you had a question about gutters?
I did.
Sorry, so, yeah, at the end of your packet, you should have a drawing like this.
Yeah, I just couldn't read the drawing.
Yeah, so
It's too small.
every other post has a water outlet. Yeah, I don't know what he's.
So this doesn't have gutters, but the main building has gutters that run into these downspouts
And
here.
it runs off the top of the awning into the
Oh.
existing
Oh, okay.
retaining wall. So there is, every other section has an outlet for that water to retain, to go off of it. Built right into the top.
Can you just make sure to repeat what you just said into the microphone so we have it on the
sorry.
record? Thank
My
you.
apologies. So the actual awning frame, every other one has built-in water outlets. So they'll attach right to the top roofing, and those will drain straight into the existing gutters at the bottom of the flooring of the outside rooftop.
I just wanted to make certain the water from the awning wasn't shedding onto the neighbor's property.
Correct.
And that's it. That's really simple.
We kept it clear, so, one, you get the view in the greenhouse, and two, from any side you're looking, you're still seeing through the entire rooftop. Or if you're on the street, with the exception of the frame of it, you're able to see straight through.
Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you going to have to add extra heat for this area during the winter, or do you think the solar gain will give you all you need?
The solar gain will give us all our need.
And if it gets too hot?
The objective is during the day and, the evenings. And
Yeah.
if it's too hot, we can just roll it back, whatever section you want. You don't
Okay.
have to open it or close it. You can just open it a little bit or whatever section.
Okay, so that's how you modulate your heat inside there. Okay.
Correct. We do the same with our downtown location. We have the same,
Okay.
similar.
Gotcha, okay.
Any other questions?
I have a question more of why did you go clear on the roof? Seems like
Because-
you'd want some shade in the summer, but
We talked about that
matters.
quite a bit. We wanted to be able to see up and be able to look at the skies. It's similar to the same of our Centennial location where we have glass ceilings on the inside and the outside. It actually will still block a good share of the sun, even though, because it kind of reflects it, but
Okay.
you'll still have the heat.
the other one's more of a heads up. If this is correct, it looks like the, 12-foot, the deeper section of the shade will pop up above the building?
No, and I'd have to look closer at that. I don't think that's a fair.
I guess I was just,
interpretation.
if this is accurate, you're going to end up with a triangle hole right there that might defeat what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. No, it'll all be the same height, and that'll be of this front. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but of this height right here.
Physically, that's not possible unless your slopes are different.
I'm sorry?
The height can't be the same unless your slopes are different.
They will be the same. Trying to think of a better.
I think he's talking about.
Because if you've given us a given slope and a distance, it'll have a height to it. And
Sure.
because you have two different, if the slopes are the same, you
Oh,
have,
I see what you're saying. Yes. I think the manufacturer has taken that into consideration. So there is that triangle. Is that what you're saying, the little?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
liable to be a big hole in something you're trying to kind of keep heat in.
Sure.
It doesn't affect my.
No, it's not as big as it looks in that picture.
I think if you look at the manufacturer's cut sheet here, you can
Yeah.
see that there's, I mean, visually, there's more of a, say, parapet or top of a wall condition at that shorter awning than there is at the longer awning.
Can you read what the height is?
I can't read the heights, but it looks like it's being addressed to some degree.
Yeah. It doesn't affect my review, it's just more of a heads up.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
You got a hole in the side of it.
They have, what's that? What all architects use, they put it in their plot. They have our backgrounds, our architectural backgrounds, and then they lay out their drawings. They engineer it.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Oh,
One more question.
The side panels are going to have doors in them. How do you maintain exiting?
I'm sorry?
More of a building code question.
What was the question?
With the side panels, I'm assuming you're addressing exiting through the
Yes.
side panels?
Yes.
So it's a building department thing versus us, but.
Yes, sir.
I have one more, Pam. Sure. Can you explain how the retractable operation works?
It's motorized.
It's motorized, so what does it roll up or
It
Yes,
kind of like
each-
folds up.
folds up?
Each panel is a separate motor.
Okay.
So it just kind of folds on top of each other.
So in this picture, they have it going, I guess, left to right. We would have it bottom to top, if that makes sense.
West to east?
Yes.
Back towards the
Correct.
building?
So each one, as Brad mentioned, you can control them individually.
You have to worry about snow load?
Yes, there is a snow load.
Yeah, usually sometimes they come with sensors too, where they sense X amount of weight, they'll automatically retract. Does that make sense?
I mean, would it automatically retract if a certain amount of weight is on top of the,
It's
like
a
in the
feature
middle of the
that-
night, if you have a snowstorm and the awning's down, would it begin to retract on its
They
own?
both have a wind and a weight sensors on each panel, so if there's too much wind, they'll automatically go up
Gotcha.
from a safety hazard as well as the weight. It's also our policy, we put them all up every night. So
Oh,
we
okay.
we never leave them down for that. You never know when you're going to get 12 inches overnight.
It is Colorado.
Right, okay, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you so much. Can I pick up the pieces?
Oh. Thank you. Now
you.
we'll go ahead and formally open the public hearing for HPV Resolution 05-2018, and that is a resolution of the Historical Preservation Board concerning a certificate of appropriateness for the rooftop awning for the Blue Ribbon and Boussard Building located at 2670-80 West Main Street. And we have one public comment, Pam. And as you know, state your name, where you live, and stick to the 3 minutes.
So it seems like if I show the 6 on
We do see it on our screen down here. Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of cut off. Yeah, we just see your name at the bottom.
You know, I can't see it, so.
Oh, yeah, keep going, make it smaller. No, the other way. Perfect, keep going. No, the other way. Yeah, now we can see the whole thing. Yeah, perfect.
You can see View House Awning No right there. My name is Pam Chadbourne, by the way. I live 3 blocks from this site. Just say no, this degrades and violates the downtown historic character, and you should tell Melting Pot to get rid of the red awnings that are in front of their building, actually in front of the Carnegie Library, and stop the incremental undermining of historic character in downtown, please. So why not? This application to me shows that the weakness and degraded state of Littleton's preservation and planning processes and documents has become something to exploit. The word has gotten out. The open for business Michael Penny objective has been achieved. Get something and then come back later for more. So View House got their permission to do the second thing, then they got parking across the street by approving a massively poor fit building. And now they want to add something that's going to set back the west, take the west setback, which is the entry from the west. You come from below and you see that building, that is what you see. With plastic, which has nothing to do with the 1890s. So nothing about this application recognizes, much less respects, the historic character or value of this site. A second-story awning to the edge of the building, visible to the west entry, totally undermines the 1890s character. It's a bookend to Carnegie Library. It's visible from both the sidewalks on Main Street and prominently from Santa Fe to everybody who comes. It detrimentally alters the mass and scale and character of the building. So you've already shown this picture with the west side extension, which doesn't belong there. So this is the character of the original building. And you can see that it steps down to the west, even though it's a single story. This would never be in character with that building. The applicant's letter says that it will impress all neighbors. I am impressed, but negatively. It will provide a memorable experience for years to come, and that's for sure if it's there, because every time I see clear plastic, I will think of the degradation of historic downtown. So, I don't have time, but it doesn't matter that this is part of a new construction. That's a sophistry. It's almost like, oh, build an extra story, and once it's disconnected from the historic building, anything goes. And that's false, Historic Preservation Board. That's false. This site and the building matter, and they have an impact on what's nearby. This violates all of these things that staff said it meets. And so there is this 1, 2, 3, get something, come back, get something, come back, and get more. Go back and get more. Please don't approve this. It doesn't belong in this site at this place. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, is that any more public comment? And then this is the time if the applicant or the representative would like to come back and kind of respond to any of the public comments that were made. You don't have to, but you can if you want.
Say my name again. Brad Mansky. I want to comment that we spent a lot of time in the design and development of this, and it was not just an add-on, it was an improvement to an existing facility for everyone to enjoy. We chose the plastic, which is a solid PVC material, to help preserve the view and allow everyone to continue to see through it in all sides, in all angles, whether on the street or within our facility. And I surely hope that you guys take that under consideration and approve this. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I say something?
Yeah, you can ask a question.
Yeah, I think that the point of everyone enjoying it is really your customers enjoying it, not everyone in the community.
Any other comments? Then let's go ahead and close the public hearing for HPV Resolution 05-218. At this point in time, there will be no more public comment, and we'll go ahead and have our discussion. Before we go to discussion, per our city attorney, we have to come up with a motion and vote on that motion. We come up with a motion that we can discuss, and then we're going to eventually have to vote on it, whether that's the motion we go forward with or not. So if you look in your packet, for the motions that staff gave us, they start, look on the right page. There's a proposed motion on page 2 of 2. So there's motion to approve and if necessary with conditions, motion to continue to assert a date certain, and motion to deny. So I'm open for a motion to be put on the floor and a second, and then we'll have our discussion. Can you see where that is? So would somebody like to put forward a motion?
I move to approve the HPB Resolution 05-2018, approving the Certificate of Historic Appropriateness for 2670, 26780, West Main Street, known as the Blue Ribbon and Broussard Building, with no conditions.
Do we have a second? Okay, so now we can have our discussion on this topic. One of the things that we could do is go through the staff analysis and look at the different aspects of how it pertains to the design guidelines. And that is almost to the end of the packet where it starts with the staff analysis. And we looked at the proposed work would not detrimentally alter, destroy, or adversely affect any architectural or landscape feature which contributes to its original historic designation and to its otherwise in conformance with any applicable adopted design guidelines. So to kind of go through the process, do you think that that applies or not? And do you agree with the staff analysis that the addition that they're proposing will not detrimentally destroy, alter, et cetera, the architectural landscape?
I think we could do that, Pam, but I think there's a fundamental issue that we should discuss first.
Okay.
And that is when this original COA was approved back in November of 2014, it was approved with a number of conditions. The design of the second floor was purposefully designed that way so that it would not overshadow the main floor. In other words, the 1,567 square foot, the 2,039 square foot addition on the second floor was designed specifically so that it wouldn't be a large, massive undertaking on the second floor, which would then lessen the look of the first floor. And in this case, where we're getting permanent posts and permanent rails, it's in effect an addition to that second floor, which creates more mass for that second floor. So I think that they had to tear 1,500 square feet off the back of the building to begin with, so that the general shape or the general square footage of the building was similar. That's how they were able to add on the second floor. So in my mind, this creates a permanent addition to the second floor, which is not really in conformance with what we approved back in 2014.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I just think that Pam Chadbourne's comments should be, I mean, they're well taken. It does visually change the western view of what View House looks like.
In my mind, the second story is always tried to be set back and not to dominate the skyline or the building line. And although this is big and it's massive without the awning, it does set it back a little bit and make it kind of second to the structure of the building. And to Mike's point, when you pull it out, all of a sudden it becomes bigger and it becomes it just adds to the mass. I understand from an economic viewpoint that this would be space that the View House could use for their customers and economically be able to give them that view use more space in the wintertime. I mean, I understand why they're doing it. I mean, it makes good business sense. Paul, what do you think?
Well, if it was on the front portion of the patio encroaching into the front setback of the building being the Main Street setback, I would agree that it wouldn't meet the criteria, but with it on the side, it's meeting the criteria of setback. Now, to Mike's point, the massing, I agree, once the panels go on, it's going to look like a room because of the reflectance of it, but.
Yeah, I don't disagree that the massing is going to look larger in appearance. But I wonder if the original, and I wasn't privy to that, the original COA's massing criteria was more on, say, floor area ratios or overall footprint for parking or et cetera, building requirements than, say, aesthetic massing aspects of it. To my knowledge, there isn't any limiting mass configuration in our code for the second story. And in regards to that, I would find it hard to find a limitation for its use.
Andy, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm trying to quickly go through that 2014 decision because, again, I wasn't here, and I just probably not doing it justice, but I see, themes like transparent, and we've talked about the setback. So while I understand the point of the massing, I felt like it was, the saving grace was that it was pushed back and it is clear. So consistent with the transparent railings and things like that, I thought that it would be consistent to our standards.
Amy?
So if I'm interpreting the drawing correctly, if you look at the building, if you stand on Main Street and look at the building facing south, there is a little bit of a setback, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're standing on the south side if you're standing on the west side
right,
and looking
west.
East, it comes all the way to the edge of the building. So the question that one of us asked, I forget who it was, about what the view would be from, say, 5 feet 6 inches off the street is a valid question. I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this. I like the fact that when you're looking straight on, it is, pushed back. And I'm wondering, you get more space, obviously, taking it all the way to the west edge of the building, but is that the right approach? I mean, would we be more satisfied if it didn't go all the way to the edge and didn't cover as much space?
But the issue is there's no setback requirements on the side, and that's why I asked that.
Right.
So it's not violating any criteria.
It's just visual impact.
Other than aesthetic.
Right, visual impact.
Right.
Yeah, it's a voluntary setback. It says on page 2 of Dennis's work here, these setbacks will help distinguish the new from the historic and minimize the visual impact of the second floor addition on the historic structure. So if you have no setback now, I think it...
But that's in relation to the front setback, though, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. Not the side.
Not the visual.
Well, it says these setbacks, so that sounds like more than one setback.
So you're interpreting a setback from the front and the side?
Yes.
Kim, thoughts?
Well, I'm just thinking it is transparent, and right now, tables go right to the side, and there's umbrellas, and people sit right there, so you can see that space is occupied.
Right. It's just the structure up above it, I think, that's in question, right?
Right. So. I think so, and the fact that it is transparent, but I'm just thinking that when the sun hits it, I mean it's going to be very visible as.
There is something there, because I know I've sat up there and you can be in the sun or in the shade.
I always thought it was just
I thought there was some
umbrella.
partial.
And then they put, if I'm not mistaken, they have garage doors that raise so you can walk out onto the patio.
Right.
And then you sit in the open air under
Right.
an umbrella. And it's a fabulous space. It's wonderful.
Oh, yeah. I don't sense a consensus. There's discussion about the mass of this. For hypothetical, what if it was smaller? Would that make a difference? You know, maybe it didn't come all the way to the edge, and I don't know. It moved back a little bit. I mean, is it the scale and the coming to the edge that really impacts the aesthetics from the west side?
I'll say, at least from my perspective, looking at it from the south elevation, from the front elevation, the roof lines are buried. There's a mixture of transparency across the building, some solid, some openness. So to me, the mass from the south side, which is the front facade, doesn't seem as much of an impact to me as I think probably people feel from that side lot on the west side. I'm not sure how applicable that is, considering, that another building could go on that side lot and go 2-3 stories per our zoning and design guidelines. So then therefore that mass from that view is therefore eliminated. Or is, I wouldn't say eliminated, but is not applicable, I guess.
Well, if you're standing over like in front of the Carnegie Library, then that would be an impact.
Currently.
Or if you're on Santa Fe, for instance.
Yeah, in Santa Fe. Well, and this is zoned. I mean, this is not going to go any higher. This is CA zone. B2's across the street.
That's still
Different.
allowed to go 2 to 3 stories on that lot there, right next door.
On a setback, not on the front.
The 3rd story would be set back, yes, but you can go up to 2 stories on a new
There
build.
could be a building right here with no setback.
I thought there was a limit on CA zoning, that you couldn't.
Is there in fact a lot there?
Per the downtown design guidelines, that setback is at the 3rd story.
Right, so you can't do like the mixed use, you can't do what they did kind of thing.
You do 2
That is
stories.
2 stories and the 3rd
Third
story
story
is set back.
setback.
3rd story setback.
So you're saying across the alley?
No, directly to the west, where the board shop is. That whole lot is what I'm saying is part of the zoning.
Okay, but there is an alley.
There's an alley to the south.
Okay.
I personally
gotcha.
think that we have to look at what is and look at all of downtown Littleton, and we can keep in mind what they can do next door, but I think we're trying to keep a look and feel to keep our unique character where we can. I don't sense a consensus. Do we want, can we take an informal poll of the motion on the table?
No, however, I would remind you that you do not need consensus to vote. If the motion does not pass, then you can bring another motion, but I would say you need to just go to a vote if you're ready to vote.
Okay. Do you feel like we need more discussion? Are we ready to go to a vote? And the motion on the table, as a reminder, is to approve. Andy?
I didn't mean to interrupt, but if I'm just, sorry, with the newbie here, just wanting to make sure I'm making the decision based on the criteria we're allowed to apply. And so I'm seeing awning guidelines and these compatibility standards. So the massing, that people are trying to come up with some good compromises that make it feel less obtrusive maybe. I'm trying to figure out where that fits in our standards.
if you look at the staff analysis, which we were looking at, if you look at the different pieces that were pulled out on, there's no page number.
On page 5 of the...
It's part of the staff analysis, and it talks about staff has reviewed the amended proposal for the, is that okay, that's page 5. I don't have a page number for some reason. And if you look at the various criteria, there's 3 main criteria. One is the work would not detrimentally alter, destroy, or adversely affect any of the architectural landscape feature which contributes to its original historic designation and is otherwise in conformance with any applicable adopted design guidelines. Then there's another one. It's visually compatible with designated historic structures located on the property in terms of design, finish, material, scale, mass, and height. And the third one, it's visually compatible with development on adjacent properties. So I think those are the three things that we need to consider in terms of looking at this addition in the context of these three things.
Thank you.
Is it worth a discussion of some of these three things? Or you feel like you have enough information to make a decision on the motion on the floor? If the motion passes, then that's the end of discussion. If the motion doesn't pass, then we can put a new motion on the floor. And the motion on the floor is as the design is, without, the way David said it, is without any suggested changes. Okay. Are we ready to vote?
Call the question.
Okay, let's go ahead. And just vote either for your motion or against it.
Okay, the motion is 4 to 3, and the motion does carry.
Okay. All right. Then I think we're ready. Do we have any? The next agenda item is, do you have anything that you want to present, Andrea, as part of the formal meeting? If not, we'll move to study session.
I do have a few items.
Okay.
The first is, I'd like to let you know that there is going to be a second round of the Main Street grant program. There was, as you may recall, $8,200 left in the fund. And we do have at least one interested applicant at this time. And also along those lines, the City Council is meeting about the request that comes from Chair Grove regarding being able to hold over funds. And it has not been voted on yet, but it looks like there is at least some interest by council members in being able to hold over any unused funds to the following year. And specifically what the proposal is to be able to carry those funds over for up to 3 years and up to $150,000. So we will wait to hear from council when they vote on the budget, if that passes or not. The next item is the creamery.
Before you leave that, and maybe you can address this, or is this going to be part of your presentation, about the status of the previous, the people that received grants and how they've kind of complied with the deadlines?
Sure, I can go over that, yes. As you recall, there were some deadlines that were included in the approvals of the 2 grants that the board reviewed this summer in 2018. And the first one for Laurie Harbert, the Spotswood House, she was to provide a contract from her window contractor by, I believe it was August the 15th, and she did meet that requirement and is planning on getting to the work in September-October timeframe. The other applicant, Carl Pappert with the J.D. Hill General Store, was to meet a deadline to make an application for a building permit. I believe the deadline was August the 6th, and he did in fact submit his building permit application by that date. So we are all caught up on those deadlines. Of course, they still need to complete the work within 18 months, but it appears that at least they have made progress.
So our deadlines hopefully will work, that we won't have rollover. if it all goes according to plan, but at least we put some parameters in place, so that's good to hear.
Yes. All right, so the creamery, which was, there was a grant that the board approved in 2017 for an addition onto the rear, and wanted to let you know that a staff level certificate of appropriateness was approved for that rear addition, and construction is likely going to start within the next few weeks on that. The next item is that the first meeting of the Littleton Boulevard Outreach Committee is going to be on this Friday. And as a reminder, it's Kim Field, Amy Fisher, and from HLI, it's Rick Cronenberger. And we'll be meeting and begin the work of discussing the outreach to the community and to the property owners, and coordination between the board, city, and HLI on those efforts.
I just have one. I thought Andy was on that as well.
We did have Jolene, and then, as you recall, she needed to leave the board because she moved out of the city. And then Amy came on.
I see.
Okay, and then the last item is that I wanted to show you the new color and official zoning map that city staff has been working on. It will be going to council for review in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and I have a copy of it here. And I'd like to point out on this color map that we have the historic districts shown, and we also have markers for all the properties with landmark designation. So that's the first time that we've had that on our zoning map. And I'll roll it out here. I'll also bring it to the next room over while we have the study session, where you have more of an opportunity to take a look at it.
Right. Anything else?
That's it.
Does anybody have anything else in our formal part of the session before we adjourn to study session? Okay.
I think Pam brought up a good question about the melting pot. There's a series of umbrellas and walls that were constructed, I believe, without any approval.
We approved the wall. It was under Kevin's regime.
How about the umbrellas?
The umbrellas are not stationary, so do we have any control?
The umbrellas are not
Permanent.
They're not permanent. They can go up and down.
Anything else? Okay, so the September 17th meeting of the HPV is now adjourned, and we will move to study session. let's go ahead and call the September 17th study session of the HPB to order. I wanted just to take the opportunity to review our work plan and see where we are, see if there's anything we need to take off, make sure that the people that are working on them are still ready, willing, and able to volunteer. We have some names from people from our last board that we need to take off. So going down the list, we want to work to promote participation into the Main Street District. And we've been working with City Council and some of the key stakeholders. I think there's still a lot of work left to do. We met with Cal Murin, and he's a big proponent of the all-inclusive district, and he has kindly offered to talk to his peers. We are looking at 11 property owners that represent the 36 properties that are not in the district. So it's a matter of just 11 people, and hopefully through process and community feedback, we can encourage those people to opt into the district or move to an all-inclusive district. Any thoughts or comments on that? Okay, next one, historic building awareness programs, identify key properties and share historical significance with owners. Mike's done some work on that with Liz Eaton's building, home, work with U.S. Post on getting the post office designated. Any other thoughts on that?
I just want to say kudos. You guys have done a really good job.
Well, we could get more buildings, get more land, but any thoughts? Does anybody else have any ideas? I mean, it's more of a case-by-case basis. We talked about perhaps discussing designation and maybe doing a video or something along those lines. It's something that's kind of been, staff has talked about. I think as part of the Littleton corridor, there'll be more a refresh look at designation, the advantages of a district, the advantages of landmarking. I mean, do you agree, Andrea, that that will be looked at? We're also going to, after the first of the year, Andrea talked about a brochure on landmarking to replace the one we have and get a kind of a uniform branding.
I think we have 3, even maybe 4 different brochures out there. They all look quite different from one another. So staff is going to take that on over the winter time and have some rebranding so that they look similar and address who is our audience with each one of these brochures, and do we really need 4, maybe 2 or 5 or whatever it is. We're going to take a complete look at that and have something available by the time we get to the warm months when there are Western Welcome Week, retreats, and tours and everything else that the board is involved in.
Right now, just to refresh your memory, we have the advantage of joining the district of property owners. We go seeking historic preservation landmark status. And then we have a one-pager that we use that talks about the advantages of an historic district. It also includes some information about HLI. And it's more a consumer and awareness piece. These 2 are more specific, have more specific target audiences. So we're trying to look at these, and then there's some other bits and pieces that are historic walking tour. This one is downtown Littleton. So there's all these different looks with all the different pieces of information they're looking to consolidate and a unified brand. So just kind of high-level awareness. Any other thoughts on the Historic Awareness Program? I just think that presentations will be put together as part of the Littleton survey that maybe we can utilize in community meetings, or like as part of the vision plan, any community feedback, maybe that can spill over into that.
I think it's, it's certainly downtown, and even with the Littleton corridor, you do have a finite number of property owners. And there's really, brochures, websites, videos, all of that. Nothing takes the place of really sitting down specifically with someone, addressing their issues and explaining it to them. So,
And we have.
Yeah.
We have made every effort to reach out to all the property owners that have not been in the district. Sometimes we've been successful at having a discussion.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have not.
Yeah. But that is, that in my opinion, that's kind of the front line.
And I think
You leather work and it's really hard, but it's
having peer-to-peer, other peers, other property owners discuss with their peers is the most valuable thing that we could do in terms of having them discuss their issues that they've had. So Cal is one that's been willing to do that, and hopefully we could get other champions to do that too. Littleton Boulevard corridor, is there anything you want to add other than what you already talked about in the formal meeting?
No, nothing additional to add, but glad that it is finally happening, that the survey is just about done, and that we will be meeting this week.
And then Amy and Kim, are you able to go to that meeting? Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for volunteering.
Actually, the approval from CHS, I just need to print them out.
Number 4 is actually...
I have a question about that one, Pam. Are Mike and Diane still on board on the Littleton Boulevard corridor?
We are no longer under contract with them. They have completed all of their deliverables. And so we do have plans to have them help us out with a meeting with City Council study session in the future to give their presentation there. And possibly we will use them in other places too.
I know they were instrumental in talking to building owners as they were going through the survey, so having them be part of that process might be very valuable.
Yes, if they're interested in doing it on their own. I think we're more or less looking at us, the board and staff, taking over at this time.
Thanks.
Number 4 is the downtown design standards and guidelines are complete, is my understanding. And thank you, David, for all your work on that, and Mike for your work on that, and to David and his company that allowed you to volunteer your time for that. So we appreciate it. Okay, so going down to the next one, formalize the relationship between HLI and HPB. I think that might be another one that's complete. Andrea, I mean, we have ongoing meetings, we have liaisons, we're working together where appropriate, so I think we can do that as a complete. Identify structures or groups of structures that are eligible for landmark status. HLI is working on that. I'm wondering if that's something, is that something we could, oh, that's with HLI. So I think we kind of leave that open because that's ongoing. Number 7. My thought is maybe we leave that for now and take it off.
Yeah, oh, you want to take it off?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
Is there any
updates? To do it
updates?
again. No, there are no updates other than it's still a low priority. And yeah, I mean, it's been complicated. Complicated is not the right word, but it's been partially addressed. And I would say with the top priority, the promoting the inclusive district in play, I would say that we wouldn't want to do anything with the plaques until that's resolved one way or the other. So yeah, I think it's fine to take it off.
Yeah, it just, a sign is too probably big and expensive, and we couldn't get the grant funding we thought about, and
yeah, and as a priority, it's never going to be really high,
right,
unless there's some community demand for it, which I don't hear right now.
I don't think so. So I don't know. What does anybody have any thoughts about? Should we just take it off? All right, I agree. So we'll take that one off. And the next one is case studies of designation. I think in theory it would be a great idea, and maybe it's part of something we do as the Littleton corridor. But to your point, Kim, I mean, we're talking about a very small universe of people that have not yet opted into the district. And I don't know if a case study and all the effort that goes into that will help them. Now, it may help with the Littleton corridor, but then there would probably be different examples of mid-century modern. So is this something we want to keep on the work plan, or what?
Is that where we're going to do a video? Record somebody who went through the process?
Yes. And we looked at a commercial building, and we had talked about maybe the people that landmarked the home not too long ago. I can't remember the name.
Beaman Street.
Beaman Street. Yeah. And the advantages. I don't know. Do you want to change that to a low priority? Maybe let's change it to low and see if it plays out as part of the Littleton Corridor project.
So we actually are doing a video for the Littleton Boulevard project. We're under a separate contract with Michael Paglia, and he has written the script and is working with the city's videographer on angles and what to shoot. And I would say, I'm thinking it's maybe about halfway done at this point.
Oh, okay.
And so we should have that in maybe another 6 to 8 weeks.
So maybe can we put that under a staff project? If you're spearheading it?
Yeah, we can do that. But I think, yeah, staff is probably good.
Yeah, let's put it.
And also, it seems that case studies, videos, testimonials, things like that are more appropriately regarded as tactics for the strategies that we develop for the Littleton corridor. So,
next thing is the walking tours. Just a quick update. They've been very successful over the summer. May we had, I don't know, maybe 10 and 15 for our 5 to 6 o'clock tours. And then June, July, August, we had anywhere from 25 to 35 people per tour. The microphones work wonderfully. They're a little primitive. You can't turn around and because you literally have something on the front of you, but people can hear. I think our customers are much more satisfied. They seem to like the tour. We do it 45 minutes from one side. We don't do, before we did 30 minutes one side, 30 minutes the other side, and for a total of an hour. This way we kind of talk about buildings on both sides, and that's been working well. Mike and I are going to meet with HLI and do a look back and see how we can take the tours up another level. When we did this last year, we put together a process, and the process made it very smooth. We weren't scrambling every time. Who has the box of this or whatever? And you go there, and there's people from HLI sitting there with a table with information. People now sign in. We have our brochure. They have their brochures. It's looking much more professional. So hopefully we will continue to have interest in that. Hoodlum meetings. We kind of haven't attended Hoodlum meetings over the summer. We haven't had any people interested. The next one is the first Wednesday of the month from 8 to 9 in Town Hall. It's quite interesting to hear what's going on around town and what events they're looking for and what some of the issues they're addressing. If you can go, and I'll get the sign-up sheet here in a second. If you can go, it would be great, and I can help you talk about, but basically you talk about what we're doing. If somebody was to go to the October 3rd meeting, which is I guess 2 weeks, then you might want to talk about the COA that we approved and some key projects, maybe the Littleton Corridor project. So let me pass this around. We have some openings, and if you would like to go, that would be great. I think it's good for us to have outreach in the community. They get to know what we're doing, we get to know what they're doing. Western Welcome Parade, we had a booth along with HLI like we've done for the last couple of years. The city kindly provided us a easy up and chairs and table. We felt like our booth was a little light in terms of giveaways and things to attract people. That's one of the things we'll meet with HLI and hope to have more visuals, candy. HLI is talking about something where you spin and answer questions about the history of Littleton. So hopefully that's something that we can work on over the winter and be prepared for next Western Welcome. And I suspect that would be something that they would fund. And candies.
I staffed with Andy on my shift.
Oh, okay.
And we had some takers. We had a great location, and we did have some people that were interested in what HPB does, historic preservation in general. And as you always find at any table in the community, lots of people kind of sharing their own reminiscence of what it was like. So, I thought it was time well spent.
I agree, and thank you very much for volunteering. Mike helped set up HLI. I did a stint at the booth. I felt like I had some good conversations, but they were a little bit more few and far between compared to the people next to us that had more things to attract customers. Their booth participation is a little greater than ours, so we wanted to do that. And HLI also wants to get a sign because we had our sign. And we want to pull some more things from the meet and greets, some of the pictures and photos and things like that. So
the idea of a little trivia is wonderful.
Yeah, we thought that would engage people, and just photos, more photos to come look at. Okay, so community outreach events like the meet and greet program. I guess you were busy this summer and you didn't participate in many of those, Kim?
I did not, and it was just a function of my scheduling. But I did, I attended at least one, and they are always well attended. They're always good.
So maybe that's something that we can put a renewed effort, if that's an area of interest to you to go. What is it like? It's like an hour or two.
It's 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
And it's, summertime, nice evening. There's pizza and ice cream, and it's a wonderful event. People really enjoy it. They like meeting. There's all kinds of folks from the city. Everything from the building permit guys to city council, and there's fire trucks,
public works, the engineers,
police, everything. It's all kind of a one-stop shop, and people really, I saw ears being bent all over the place by citizens. My only suggestion is city council should not stand in a knot and talk to each other. They should be out talking to their constituents.
The grant program. Okay, I think we should leave the grant program on here, but we've really completed this account. I guess it will be completed next month, once we get formal approval from city council. Yeah, when and if, yes. Right, so that's something that's ongoing. I think we may want to change the account to just, continue to monitor, continue to offer the funds or whatever.
Ignorant question. Who is Ted Lighty?
He's a previous board member, but he needs to come off that. And Mike did a lot of work on that, but I don't know that that's much. Okay. Amy, I'm going to take you off the Western Welcome. You didn't. Yeah.
I was out of time.
No, let's take Amy off that. I'm going to put all on that. If we could do that, Andrea, because Amy really didn't spearhead that. Going down to some other types of projects. this is really understaffed, but I'm not so sure that this would, no, these are other projects. So we had talked to provide a list of vendors and builders who specialize in historic properties without approving them. In other words, we're not vetting them, and we would have a disclaimer. And that's something that Dan Miller had started, who was a previous board member, and I didn't know if there was anybody that wanted to take over that project. He did start it. He wanted to look at what they did in Denver, but you had to have a password, so we kind of got stopped a little bit. So is that something that somebody would want to take on? If not, I think we need to make it a very low priority until somebody wants to work on that.
I guess we'll work on that.
That would be wonderful. If you talk to Dan, I think he's...
See if he has some resources. Or
yes, that would be
resources.
wonderful. Thank you.
Sure.
That would be a wonderful service to provide.
Yes, both.
Trying to rehab.
To help people when they're trying to make changes. Thank you. We had talked about meeting with other HBB boards and see if we could do a tour swap. That really hasn't happened. We thought we would maybe do that as part of Saving Places, any informal contacts that were made, but nothing came through. And speaking of that, we looked it up, and there is going to be the Saving Places Conference is February, what did we decide? February 4th through 7th. It's a multi-day conference, but we can attend for 1 day or 2 days usually. And we can usually get a scholarship through the city. So I mention it now because if you think you're at all interested, please kind of save that in your mind on your calendar. Like I booked an out-of-town trip that was very flexible, and I wish I would have thought about it ahead of time because I couldn't go.
So it's Feb 4 through 7 this year?
Right.
Just to clarify, the city will pay the entire fee for the conference. The city may be able to get reimbursement from Colorado Historical Society for part of the fee that we pay to help us have the money for all of you to attend.
It's a very useful conference.
I'm planning to go.
Okay, good. And that's why I brought it up to think about it, even though it's far away. So, and we can go together, so we can make plans at that time, depending on what day, who goes where, what the program.
One thing that we, I think, chatted about was perhaps having a tour or something on the Littleton corridor at Saving Places.
So I have contacted them.
Oh, good.
And it's just in the very preliminary stages, but they appear quite interested.
Excellent.
Wonderful. And we'd probably like to go on that tour too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let us know. Okay, so the list is going to work. The education, that's low priority. Alley project, we had talked about including that design guidelines. Is that something that we want to keep on our work plan? That's something that, I don't know if it came through in the design standards or not.
Yeah, it wasn't part of that discussion at all. But my understanding was that was something else the city was looking at engaging outside consultants with and would have members from various boards.
Yes, possibly. It was outside of the scope of work for the project that we were on.
Is that something we want to leave on the work plan?
I'm always interested in activating alleys, and our alleys are changing, and they are becoming more and more, people are using them more and more. And I was very, very excited to go to Saving Places, and my goal was to go and, get every single piece of information and excitement about, and it was crickets about alleys at Saving Places last year. So, I think that, hope springs eternal, but it's probably low at this point.
Should we, since the design standards are already done, should we change the verbiage to something more opportunistic?
Probably just encourage, start of sentence, encourage activation of alleys.
And beautification?
I think that's pretty much all we have at this point. We're not engaging consultants on it. We're We're not doing design standards at this point.
Be a study session topic at some point where we could look at strategy for activating those alleys. What alley would it be, and what would be the purpose of it? Mm-hmm. Just recently, I was at I was over in Rhino and saw the alleys there with the street art and the murals, if you're familiar with that, and that was wonderful. And, also, very recently, I was up in Fort Collins, and they continue to activate their alleys, which was a very different type of a program that they were doing, both wonderful projects.
In Fort Collins, very exciting, and also Denver is doing very exciting things. And, I should point out that in our own community, we have business owners that are kind of doing the same thing. They're trying to do that. On the flip side, there's the seamy underbelly of alley activation, and that is, from what I understand, in Fort Collins, they've got some crime issues that they're dealing with, and I know that they're dealing with that in Denver. So you don't want to activate an alley to create a scary space. So
it needs to be combined with lighting and
yeah.
Good point. I saw in Milwaukee where they actually had mural painting, free flow painting, where there was no controls, and artists would come and paint in an alley. Mm-hmm. And we've got some interesting stuff. There's a lot of options. So let's put that as...
Denver did that Alley Cats program where they were, kind of painting and hiding cats. Not real cats, but painted cats. Yeah. In the ferry houses, I think they did that in Idaho, if I believe correctly. Where people can, it's almost like a, little thing where you go and find the art that's tucked away. It's kind of neat things. But those tend to be pretty organic things that spring from the community instead of the big alley program.
yeah, although the board might consider making a thrust for alley improvements through the grant program. And maybe there might be, to sort of consolidate the improvements, maybe there'd be like, the first alley to be featured, something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I think it'd be important, like you said, to have a study session first. One of these meetings when we don't have COA, or we can set aside a study session, we all bring examples
Proper
or some
time.
thoughts and start the brainstorming process a little more organized.
That'd be cool if you could energize it with some funds from the grant program.
Yeah.
That's what's holding probably a lot of people back, is just funding.
Well, if they put money into it, that other people might as well. That also
Yeah, you have to get
encourages
that
them.
ball rolling.
And we have working alleys for anyone who's ever been stuck at the post office behind the beer truck.
As does Fort Collins, and they, interestingly have beautiful pavers, and the trucks still come down, you just step out of the way.
Yep. So in that section, Andrea, why don't we change the first one, the list of vendors, that's going to be David. And then number 16, let's make it low priority and change what we've done here because design standards are already done. Encourage activation and beautification of alleys, make it a topic of a study session in the future, possibly use funds from the grant program to encourage alley projects. And let's make that all instead of something for David and,
Yeah.
right.
That's a quick question.
Sure.
The HP boards and swap tours, is the objective just general education, like just hear from other preservation boards what their issues are?
We did one in the past where some of the board went and actually did like a walking tour of downtown Arvada. And at the same time, we met for lunch with their preservation board or whatever, our peers, and talked about some of the issues. It was very informal. And it was done through a connection. Whoever organized it knew somebody in their historic group. So if you ever run into somebody that would like to, we could definitely do a tour here for them or go on a tour. mean, we're all kind of interested in history, and so it's interesting for us personally as well as part of the board. We could bring back ideas.
Okay, thanks.
And Saving Places, we thought was a good place to make those contacts. Let's see. Looking at staff projects.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just one more thing on the tours. Right now, it kind of is festival season. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it is. And communities, Sheridan, Wheat Ridge, Elizabeth, places like that are doing tours and focusing on, the Colfax corridor in Wheat Ridge or wherever it is, Lakewood. This might be a time to just pay attention in the newspaper I noticed that Sheridan is having a big celebration. And so this is the time to find out about other communities that are doing things like that, just to kind of tuck away.
And that might be something people do individually on their own.
Yeah, just kind of keep an eye out in the newspaper.
Do you know, Pam, if History Camp is here in October? Are they going to have it at ACC this year?
Oh, that's right.
History Camp. They do it every year. It was at Red Rocks last year, I think. Red Rocks Community
Jefferson County?
No, it's
History?
Yeah,
I've never heard of History Camp.
History Camp. Yeah, they had it last year. It was pretty well attended. I thought it was going to be. I'll have to check with HLI. They should know. Darley or somebody should know there. But I think they were going to do some tours. It brings a lot of people into town. So it might be a good place to meet people. Vis-a-vis the.
Is HLI going to do some history tours?
I would imagine they are. I'll find out and email everybody and let you know. It's a fun day.
Yeah, good point, Kim. Thank you. I don't know. You don't looking at
October 13th.
October 13th. Thanks.
October 13th at ACC. Staff projects. I don't know if you have an intern. I don't know if that's ever came to fruition.
Well, I could come up with a couple projects for an intern, but I don't believe we have enough for an entire semester's worth. And then also taking into consideration the time involved for staff to train the intern and find a space. So it's not high priority for us at this point.
Should we take it off?
I think so. Okay. Let's put it back on when.
Yeah. If there's a project and motivation on the part of staff, maybe you have a big project that lends itself to an intern or something in the future. City website, use website to promote historic preservation programs. I think that's kind of ongoing.
Oh, yes. We just recently included one of the historic preservation videos on the HP pages of the city website.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. We need to look.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We talked about consolidating brochures. What about an entry sign for Arapahoe Hills? Is that going anywhere?
So, as it turns out, our sign code only allows for one entry sign per subdivision.
This wasn't about an entry sign, though. It was about
the street signs.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think both, and over the number of years, both have been talked about. And I did hear from somebody in the neighborhood that you are interested still in the street signs, and I just need to find the time to talk with our Public Works Director about the possibility, if we have a program, to do something different. So I'm actively seeking him out.
I noticed the neighborhood to the east has all new signs, so it might be moving our direction.
Okay. Okay, good.
They have the new signs with the funky flag on them.
The black and white ones?
The bigger ones. Are they just Littleton signs, or do they have something about your?
Just Littleton. It's not our neighborhood. It's the neighborhood to the east of us.
So is this something we want to keep on here?
Yes.
Okay. But you said we can't get another entry sign.
Well, we're talking about the street signs now. I started out,
So we should take off the entry sign and talk about the street signs.
It was never about an entry sign. We have an entry sign.
Oh, okay. So it's street signs. So we need to change that.
Yes, I think so.
The idea was, instead of doing a little Littleton flag, can we do something else?
Yeah, that's.
Or different
that's more
text, or
historic.
just something that designates it as a special area versus having the standard street signs. Basically came from an idea at Arapahoe Hills, or Acres, sorry. They have wooden street signs, actually. Hand carved. We're not asking for hand carved signs, just something different.
I mean, is that anything that we have control over? I mean, staff has control over?
Public Works is in charge of street signs, all signage in the city. And so it's just a matter of me talking with our Public Works Director, Keith Reister, about the street sign program and how we may be able to fit into that.
Okay.
So I will report on that. I suspect next month I'll have something for you.
Okay, wonderful. Meeting with City Council. I talked to Andrea and she said, and Jocelyn, and we don't have any plans to meet with City Council, and City Council doesn't have any calendar to meet with its board and commission, so I think there's nothing special at this point.
They may put a calendar together in the beginning of 2019.
But at this point, we don't know. And when we did meet with them, it was just Mike and I at that point in time. The grant program, that's pretty, do we need to keep number 22 on there? That's about the account that we, after October, we think will be okay.
Well, it does seem redundant, so
we should take that off. And then the last one's a Littleton Boulevard survey, which we already addressed.
I think we can effectively call this complete. It's really just a matter of
what we do with it.
Printing them out at this point and getting them online, and of course all of the activities that will be part of the outreach.
Well, should we change it to Littleton Boulevard outreach, or?
Well, I think that's on the other. That's number 3. I think it's since we have the committee and it's made up of board members and HLI, that it probably belongs under the board section.
So it's probably Littleton Boulevard Corridor Vision Plan or whatever?
Outreach.
Outreach, okay, let's change it to outreach. And then get rid of the number 23, which is the survey, because that's complete. All right, so we made kind of a lot of changes. Do you want to make the changes and maybe send them over, like, not before the meeting, so we can get an updated version in the packet? So, like, maybe the next week or two?
Yeah, sounds good.
Is there any projects that we need to, that you feel would be important to add? And something may come up, so think about it as we go along. I mean, our main thrust is to work on COAs and some other activities like this, but this is kind of some extra stuff that we work on too. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up before we adjourn our study session?
I gave a few of these out. If there's anyone else interested in one of these books, it's from 2017, and it's about preservation, etiquettes of historic preservation, put out by Colorado Preservation Inc. And then I also have this booklet for anyone who missed the training in July by the city attorney. I gave a few out already. I might have reached everyone.
If there's some extras, I think it'd be really great to give them to council.
These?
Okay. That's initially what we were going to do with them, but it never kind of quite happened. They kind of got lost in Dennis's office.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought we did that.
Well, I don't think they ever got to council.
Okay, I'll talk to Jocelyn about it.
Yeah, so if you could, we just thought they were kind of nifty books and talk about the economic value of historic preservation and kind of make them aware. Anything else before we adjourn? Thank you, everyone, for all your volunteering that you're doing, not only on Monday nights, but the extra work that you've done on committees and Western Welcome and everything else, so appreciate your time. And let's go ahead and adjourn the September 17th study session.